Welcome to my channel. My name is V. I am a qualified actuary. I started this channel with the mission to help you study smarter, work better, and live happier. So I have a series called Careers in Math, Get to Know the Professional, where I feature various professionals in actuarial science, data science, statistics, technology, finance, and more. So previously, I have featured various actuaries working in different areas like life pricing, P&C, and marketing. So today, I'm very excited to introduce you to another actuary working in the internal audit field. Hi Alex, thank you for being here today. Can you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, V. Pleasure to chat with you. I'm Alex. I'm currently a manager at a life insurance company in Canada, and I've been working in the actuarial internal audit area. I've been with the company for about 7 years, and I've had prior experience in roles in par pricing, corporate actuarial before joining this actuarial internal audit area. I'm certified as both an actuary as well as an internal auditor.
Thanks, Alex. How did you become an actuary in the first place?
So coming out of high school, I initially thought I wanted to be an accountant. So I applied for one of the hardest accounting programs at University of Waterloo and actually got rejected. So that left me with my next choice, which was the business and math double degree program. Looking back at it, I was pretty fortunate that happened because this program gave me a lot more flexibility where I was able to customize my majors for each of those degrees. And it also allowed me to set up even more possible career paths. So going through university, I decided to major in finance instead of accounting for the business side. And for the math side, I decided to focus on actuarial science and statistics. I didn't really consider becoming an actuary until I obtained an actuarial co-op position at the life insurance company. And I obtained a role in the actuarial internal audit area, and I was able to learn about all the different actuarial areas and the practices that they are involved with. As I did that, I also was provided exam support by the company, which allowed me to complete a few preliminary exams without much out-of-pocket investment on my own. So this helped a lot. In that co-op position, I was able to see bits and pieces of various actuarial processes within the company, such as pricing, valuation, and asset liability management. So this gave me a better sense as to what actuarial work actually looks like. So there, I guess I developed a greater appreciation for the actuarial profession and decided to continue writing the exams and even pursue a full-time position. After being rehired for full-time upon graduation, I did 2-year rotational roles in par pricing and corporate actuarial. I was able to progress quickly through my exams without missteps, which took me about 5 years to complete. After I completed exams, I happily chose to return to the actuarial internal audit area with a non-rotating role.
Great. So you are a fellow of the Society of Actuaries. So which FSA pathway did you take and why did you choose it?
For my FSA pathway, I selected the corporate finance and enterprise risk management route. At least that's what it was called at that time. I always valued the mix between business and math, not only with my degrees, but also in terms of just career enjoyment as well as future career opportunities. Yeah. And I also wanted to make good use of both my degrees. So without letting some of it go to waste. So as I pursued the actuarial profession, I've always wanted to leave myself with a few more open doors if possible. And I felt that given my background and interests, I thought the obvious choice would be for me to pursue business-related roles. So for example, internal audit, finance, or risk management funds. So before I selected my track, I looked through the FSA exam syllabus and the sample exams from all the tracks and briefly compared them. I noticed that quite a bit of material from the corporate finance and enterprise risk management track was stuff I recognized from my business classes back in university. And I also thought some of that stuff would be aligned with my strengths and interests, which would make it easier for me to pass the exams.
I believe internal audit is one of the newer areas that actuaries work in. So why did you decide to work in internal audit after you obtained your fellowship?
Going back to my time in actuarial internal audit as a co-op, I developed a great appreciation for the area because I was able to learn about a wide breadth of actuarial processes such as pricing, valuation, asset liability management, and capital management, as well as others without having to work in those areas. So I also really enjoyed the business side of things where in a sense you get a a better view of the bigger picture, when you're able to see all these different functions and you're able to see how they relate to each other, how they're interdependent, and you get to see how they all fit together in the bigger picture. So during my co-op, I actually could envision myself working in that area in the long term. As I mentioned earlier, I also had experience working in the first and second lines back when I worked in par pricing and corporate actuarial for my rotational. There, it helped me develop a greater appreciation for oversight roles, which helped support my decision to return to internal audit with a non-rotating role. I really enjoyed working in that area so much that I decided to pursue a designation and become a certified internal auditor. Now, looking back, even though I gave up on my previous goal of becoming an accountant, I can at least call myself an auditor, which is close enough for me.
Yeah, I agree. An auditor is close enough to an accountant, and being an actuary on top of that is a better deal, I'm sure. Can you share with us your work as an actuary in the internal audit area? What are your responsibilities and what a typical day or week is like for you?
As the name suggests, we mostly conduct internal audits of actuarial areas within the company. So for example, pricing, valuation, capital management, and even non-traditional areas such as enterprise risk management and also non-actuarial processes sometimes. It's project-based work and everyone's always working on multiple audits at once. For each audit, we first spend time researching and learning about the processes to gather enough information to identify and assess key risks associated with those processes. So for example, think about the pricing process. The overall risk is that your products might be mispriced. And this may be due to assumptions such as mortality might be developed incorrectly. If you look at that, even if those assumptions are developed correctly, other things might go wrong, such as they might be misapplied in the model. Someone might have entered in the wrong assumptions. Or even if that is correct and the inputs are correct, the model might be incorrectly applying the assumption through errors in the formulas. Alternatively, the model itself might be correct, but the profitability analysis used to make decisions might have mistakes in them. So that could also lead to potential mispricing. So as you can see, there are a lot of things that can go wrong within the entire pricing process. And the role of the internal audit area is to try and identify where some of these risks are, then brainstorm the ideal methods for managing these risks to a reasonable level, compare and assess to see whether there are any gaps between the ideal risk management practices and what is actually being done by the management of that area. If there are gaps, then internal audit would make recommendations to improve the process, to make it more efficient, or even propose actions to manage the risks better. As I mentioned before, it's a great area that allows you to see a wide breadth of actuarial areas within the company and also gives you a chance to learn about them without having to work in them.
Being in an oversight function myself, I can certainly appreciate our work and what we can learn from our job. And I believe actuaries can add a lot of value to these areas. Do you have any advice for people who are interested in the actuarial profession?
Advice would be to try to learn as much as you can about all the different actuarial areas available to you as you consider a career in the actuarial profession. Don't be afraid to try out different areas as part of co-op or rotational programs, because that will give you a better sense as to what type of work you enjoy, as well as what you might not enjoy. In my case, even though I enjoyed my time in actuarial internal audit, I tried roles in par pricing and corporate actuarial, which was a valuable experience in helping me confirm my interest.
How about advice for people who are interested in the internal audit area?
Audit can be a very challenging area because if you think about it, sometimes you're coming into an audit without much familiarity or background in the process. And then somehow you would have to gain adequate knowledge and get to know the nuts and bolts of the process, enough to be able to provide meaningful insights and recommendations to stakeholders that are experts in their area. However, it gets easier as you work in different areas of the company or audit more areas, because there you can obtain knowledge and experiences to leverage off of. My advice would be to try to obtain experience in traditional actuarial areas such as pricing and valuation, because your knowledge and experience would be highly valued in non-traditional areas such as internal audit.
So I hope you learn more about our work as an actuary, especially the roles of the actuary in the internal audit area. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know in the comment section, and you can follow Alex on LinkedIn, which I will leave the reference in the notes sections. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!